Hi all, it's been about 3 months since I've done the cleaning on my canister filter, so I thought I'd bring you along in the process of what media I use and also how to do it. Now, the first thing we were going to want to do is turn the power off to the unit, to the FX6 itself. So we'll go down and make sure it's switched off. Now that'll stop the water coming through. The next thing we want to do is drain the unit. Now on the FX6, it actually has an outlet at the bottom. So what we can do is we can actually bring the water through the inlet, through the canister, and out through this spot here. Now the benefit of that is that I don't need to remove it. I can leave it there, and then I can switch the outlet off, then let the water run through, which I'll show you in a moment. Now, on the outlet on the bottom, you'll have a little rubber gasket. So what we want to do is we want to unscrew this part and we want to take that off. Now, with the FX6, it comes with a hose. So we want to get the hose and we want to just stick that on. Make sure it's nice and tight. Screw up the red screw on there. That'll keep it from leaking. So what we want to do then is make sure you've got a couple of buckets to the ready. So I've got 2 buckets here. Now one I'll use to do my initial clean on the filter media, and then my secondary clean on the filter media before it goes back in. I actually grabbed a 3rd bucket, and that bucket will be so for water to go back into the canister when I go to reprime it. Now the FX6 actually primes itself, and that means that it'll pull the water through from the inlet and refill the canister itself, so you don't need to worry about pumping it or priming it by sucking through the pipe itself. It's very, very cool, and makes it a lot easier, especially with the size of the hosing that it uses and the size of the canister itself. So now I'm going to open up here and I'm going to close the outlet. So you'll see the water is now coming in. So that'll be pulling it through the inlet, and it will just be pulling it through the bottom. So you'll see that the water will be a little bit murky. So I'm going to turn that off quickly so I don't overfill that bucket. Now I'm going to just do that 3 times. But on the last one, I'll do the second one. So that's going to fill up, and it fills up quite quickly. I probably overfilled that one just a little bit, so I'll just make sure I move it over into this one. I need enough space that I can clean the media in it. So that should be enough there. So turn that one off. And then on a final bucket, which I'll bring here, on the final bucket, what we're going to do is we're going to close the other pipe, other hose, the inlet. We're going to close the inlet at the time, so we're going to close that inlet, and then we're going to open it back up. Now you'll notice the water's not coming through, so we're going to take off the outlet. And what this will do is we'll get all the water that's inside the canister to come through the bottom and into the bucket. So then it empties the bucket, so it's easier for me to move with the media in it. Now I've got my towel handy. Now this is going to be pretty hard to do with one, but you'll see that there's a little clip here. So what we want to do is push the clip in and then pull up. So we get in there, pull it in. Okay, and pull up. Now you'll get a little bit of water come through. Not to matter. So now when we look over here in our bucket, it'll be actually emptying the contents of the canister into the bucket. And then we'll just continue with that until we've got the majority or we've filled up the bucket. Now all the water that's now stopped. So what I'm going to do is go back down to the outlet there, and then I'm going to just turn the hose off. Now I can actually get the hose itself and I can take that out. Now that'll have a little bit of water left in it, so you want to get rid of that as well. There'll be a little bit of water still left in the hose, so we're just going to get rid of that into one of the buckets. So if all goes right, you'll have very minimal water loss, a little bit from the bottom. Now we're going to put the plastic back on, little rubber gasket back on, and then screw that back up. There you go, done. So now we have the inlet. So now we need to take the inlet out. So I'll have my towel handy. And we'll take that one off. So pushing the button in and pulling up. Very hard to do with one hand. So I'll just get this done and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've taken the inlet out. So now we have our canister. On the top, you've got these little screws. So what I tend to do is if you pull them, you see if you pull all the way down, it'll actually take it out. Now you can clip them back in, but it's a bit of a pain. And I basically go around every second, pulling down. There we go. And then go back around. Undoing them until I'm at the last one. Yeah. And then we can pull the top off. And here we are. Actually not looking as bad as I thought it would. And now we'll pull it out of the canister. Now I'm going to pull the canister out. So move the other buckets out of the way. Now I'll keep the towel with me just to get any water that comes out while I'm pulling it out. And then I'll chuck it into one of the buckets. Now it doesn't quite fit in the bucket, but that's okay. I can just lean it on there while I take the parts off from the top. So that's not a problem at all. I just sit it on the top and that'll drip into the bucket. Now I've brought the contents of the canister up to my sink. So I'll show you how this works. Now it has two red clips. So you take them off and they'll come apart. And then each part can be taken off. Now the way that the FX6 works is the water comes through the inlet, through all of the media, through the side here, through this hole here, up through all of the mechanical, which is all of the sponges on the side here, then down through the middle. Now through the middle you'll have your mechanical and then your biological. So it goes down, up, through. Now the way I've done this is pretty much what the pond guru does. So with the mechanical filtration, which is quite dirty, but it actually has a really coarse and then a finer. And then as it goes through all of that, it comes in and to the top into your finer mechanical. And then that means that all of the muck will be stopped before it reaches the biological, hopefully. So we only have to give that a little bit of a rinse out in our water that we've taken out. So if I take that out now, you'll see that it's not too bad. And this is actually has pumice. Now, if you want to see my quick tips, I actually did a video on pumice and how I use it. So this is full of pumice. So I'm just going to go over and chuck that into my bucket, and then I'm going to take the other. Now, I'm not too stressed about washing this under the tap. I will always make sure that I only wash my biological media in the tank water, but I don't mind so much when it comes to my mechanical. So I'm going to take all of that out and I'm going to give them all a good wash. I'm going to give my biological a wash in my buckets of tank water, and then we'll be back. Now, what I didn't say is that you'll actually have any chemical at the bottom. So you'll have your first, so everything goes up through there, through your mechanical, and then through your biological, and at the very bottom tray of the FX6 is where you'd put your chemical before it goes back out into the tank. Now I'm just going to put everything back together again before it goes back into the canister. So now, like I was saying before, I've set my canister up for best performance going by the Pond Guru. Now, the Pond Guru has his own channel and he does a series called Pimp My Filter. Now, I'd recommend you highly check that out. Now, if you're not using the FX6 but another type, chances are he's probably done a video on it. So I'm going to put these back together. Now, you're just going to make sure that that area there is the same on both sides and it clips in. And now for the top. I'm going to replace the pads. Now, you see that I've got the coarser pad and then so it's like the most coarse to the least coarse. Okay. And then I get my red clips. And clip them back. Now I'm going to give the canister itself a bit of a clean, but I'm not going to bother showing that on camera. I'll get back to you shortly. Now I've had a couple of technical difficulties with my microphone, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But so I recorded a whole part and yeah, unfortunately I got no audio, so I had to redo it and I'd already put the top back on. Now you notice that the top's back on. Now to put the top back on, what I've done is I filled up with half a bucket of water. Now I advise not to fill it all the way up. Now, as I was talking about before, the FX6 can self-prime, and because of the self-priming function, it'll actually suck all the water back in and fill the canister up from there. So it's advised to fill it up about the halfway point or just above. The other reason is if you fill it up too much and you go to put the lid on, it's just going to spray water out over onto the sides, which is a bit of a pain. Now putting the lid back on, all you do is put the clips. Now what I like to do is clip one side, screw it all the way tight, then go to the very opposite end and screw again tight again, then go halfway across and then screw, and then so on and so forth until it's fully tight. Now make sure it is tight because you don't want it to spring a leak. All we do is clip that in and out, back in, turn it back on, turn the in and out on, so twist them until they're on, hit the power, and away we go. Now basically you'll hear a gurgling, bubbling. It'll probably shoot out a little bit of dirty water into the tank, but that'll clear up pretty quickly. Now if you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe. That'd be absolutely awesome, and thank you very much for watching. I do really appreciate it, all the support that I'm getting so far. If you have any questions or anything, put them down into the comments section. Again, have a great day.